All right, my name is Elizio,
My name is Dominic Vidar.
My name is Jake Chittister.
and we are the football group, more specifically offensive linemen. So, for our athletic needs for our offensive linemen, it is central to our athlete to have these fundamental abilities. So, we want to make sure that our athlete has explosive movement and power output. P equals work divided by time, P standing for power. That's the main emphasis that we want to have in our program. We want our athletes to be able to do work through really quick periods of time so that way we can generate more power with them. We want upper body strength and ability to withstand injury because linemen do a lot of work in the trenches with their upper body, so we want to make sure that they have a strong foundation to avoid injury. We want lower body strength and ability to also withstand injury because linemen, a really common injury for them are knee problems because of being rolled over on and other things like that. So we want to make sure they have a very strong fundamental base at the bottom of their body so that way they don't get injured as often. We want lower body mobility in their hips and ankles, especially because those joints are under a lot of stress and load for our offensive linemen. We also want them to have a really strong core and stability because they are being pushed around a lot and pushing around other human beings, so we want their core to stay tight to also prevent injury. And we also want to put a huge emphasis on anaerobic capacity and endurance for our athlete. So for our power, resistance, and plyo, we have seven different exercises that we're going to have our athlete do. We have them doing tuck jumps, triple broad jumps, lateral skater slides, lunge jumps, a wall chest press, a half kneeling side toss, and a medicine ball slam. So the four on the top that I have an asterisk next to are going to be the lower body plyometric workouts that we have our athlete do. So we're basically going to have our athletes split their plyo workouts into 4 different days. Two of them are going to be upper body days, and two of them are going to be lower body days. So for each upper body day, one of them is going to be high intensity, and one of them is going to be low intensity. And same with the lower body, it's going to be high intensity, low intensity. It's probably going to be structured Monday, Tuesday. If it's like theoretically, it'd be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday being high intensity chest, upper body. Tuesday, Wednesday being high intensity, low intensity lower body, and then with Thursday being a low intensity upper body. So we're gonna have basically for the lower body, it's going to be low four to tuck jump, triple broad jump, lateral skater slides, and lunge jumps. And then for the upper body, it's going to be wall chest press, half kneeling side toss, and medicine ball slam. So for our high intensity days, we're going to have a rep range of 120 to 140 reps, split in between 4 sets. So it would look like, let's say, if we're doing tuck jumps, it would be 30 tuck jumps with a 2 to 3 minute rest period, followed by 30 more for a total of 4 sets. We're going to have about 5 to 10 seconds between each rep so the athlete has plenty of time to recover and to get their body set to prevent injury, so that way they're not going at such a high pace that they lose balance and cause injury. And we also want to make sure, so they're all going to be 120 to about 140 reps, except for the triple broad jump. The triple broad jump is a lot bigger movement than the other plyometrics that we have listed. So for the broad jump, we would only do about 20 to 40 reps, but 4 sets of 5, just because it's a very vigorous activity and we don't want to injure our offensive linemen because they are really big human beings and carry around a lot of weight, so we don't want them doing too many reps of the triple broad jump.
All right, so for the hypertrophy, we have several movements. We have the bench press, squat, seated row, hip thrust, lateral shoulder raises, and face pulls. So we have the bench press, seated row, and the lateral shoulder raises and face pulls for the upper body, and we have the squat and hip thrust for the lower body. This is going to be after a main workout, so it could be just adding extra work for the athlete. So our loads are going to be 65 to 85%. You don't want to go max out on this. It's going to be 6 to 12 reps, and then 3 to 6 sets, and then we're going to keep the rest time 30 seconds to a minute and a half, so you don't cool down too much. And then we keep the squat and mainly the hip thrust for our lower body because it's mainly working the posterior and a bit of the anterior of the legs. Then we're going to do the shoulder raises and face pulls, mainly because they don't put too much stress on the joints, but still get work into the shoulders. And then our bench press is pretty universal for what we're using it for. So just get the chest and triceps, get some work in there. And that would be it for the hypertrophy. And then we have the endurance training. This is meant for so the muscles don't fatigue at the very end of so they're in the fourth quarter. This is just so they don't fatigue. So we have the weighted step ups, barbell squats, push press, hang clean, barbell RDL, and seated cable row. So for lower body, we have the step ups, barbell squat, hang clean, and barbell RDL. So all of those are going to be essential to the offensive lineman, mainly for helping the posterior so they don't fatigue towards the end of a quarter. And then we have the push press and cable rows to keep what's it called? To keep the upper body moving. And then the load is going to be 67% of the 1 rep max, 12 plus reps, 2 to 3 sets with less than 30 seconds. 30 seconds between each set, mainly because we want the athlete to push the muscle to its max, not to go for strength.
All right, so speed and agility. First, it's kind of important to recognize that speed is not a lineman's greatest necessity, but being able to change joint angles and directions quickly with proper technique in what we call in the football coaching world, feet, hands, and hips, especially at the lineman position, that being our biggest goal. Again, just being able to change those joint angles and change directions quickly, maintain proper form. So the progression we kind of have here is starting with a lying position to a sprint progression. We're going to hit 15 yards of that. We're going to hit that 4 times through. Then we're going to hit a double X dot drill. We're going to hit that 4 times. Here on the right of the slide, you can kind of see how the double X dot drill works. Then after that, we're going to hit the agility bags for 4 times through. You can see that again here on the right with the lineman kind of picking his knees up over these bags. Then we're going to hit the agility ladder for 2 different exercises, one being the icky shuffle and the other being a lateral shuffle. We're going to hit those 4 times through as well. Each of these things is going to be really important for our linemen, other than just being able to change directions quickly, but also the idea of regulating the movements and doing the motor planning in your head and not having to think too much as you go through these movements. Just developing that ability to move quickly and accurately. The rest periods for all these things, it's important to recognize that with speed and agility training, we're not necessarily conditioning. We're not trying to tire them out. It's about developing the skills of speed progressions and being able to change those joint angles and change directions. So what that's going to look like, we're going to hit 45 seconds of rest between each reps in order to allow our pathways to provide us energy. And we're going to hit a 2-minute rest period between each of the exercises. Next slide, please. The last thing we're going to kind of cover here is flexibility. This is going to be pretty much all static. This is also going to be pretty much a cool down for every day. Contrary to popular belief, when you look at a lot of these linemen, especially at the college and NFL level, a lot of these people make mistakes that these guys aren't athletes, but it's quite the opposite. These guys are elite athletes. They're playing at 315 pounds plus and 6'5", trying to move other human beings that are 6'5", 315 plus for hours at a time. And you have to be elite at it. And you have to be in great shape in order to do these things. So when we talk about flexibility, the reason we have to be able to do these things is because at that size, moving for that long, there's a lot of risk for injury, but also it's just for performance. So in particular, the hips and the knees, as we kind of mentioned earlier in our slides, those are going to be really important for building our flexibility as well as the shoulders. So the individual flexibility exercises we came up with are the arm cross shoulder adduction stretch, just hit it across your body. Then we're going to hit the overhead tricep stretch, and we're going to hit the chest stretch with the wall hold, and then kind of working here into the lower body. We're going to hit the hip hinge to increase the hamstring flexibility, mobility, the pigeon stretch, which is in particular for our hip mobility. Like I said, that's really important. And then we're going to hit the elevated box hamstring stretch and the kneeling lunge hip flexor stretch. You can kind of see it here on the right side of the screen. They're working through a progression with the kneeling hip lunge flexor or hip flexor stretch. And then we're going to hit the elevated box quad stretch. And the last two things we're going to hit are the calf stretch with the leg behind and then the calf stretch with the leg behind and bent. The reason we kind of have a specific difference between those two is because of the different individual muscles that it's going to target. So with the calf stretch with the leg just behind you and not bent, you're going to hit both the gastrocnemius and the soleus. As where we get to bending that back leg, you're only stretching the gastrocnemius. You're getting that gastrocnemius isolation. And those are going to be really kind of what we're working with. And that is the end of our program, unless Alizio or Dominic has something to add.
No,
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.